Fort McKenzie's darkest day, a massacre nobody expected. Welcome to Native Legends and History Stories. If you love diving deep into America's untold frontier tales, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe, ring that notification bell, and join our community of history enthusiasts as we uncover one of the most brutal tribal conflicts ever documented by European witnesses. The morning frost glistens red as hundreds of warriors materialize from the dawn mist, their war cries shattering the peaceful Montana sunrise. It's 1833 and, from his precarious perch atop Fort McKenzie's wooden walls, Prince Alexander Philippe Maximilian Zuvidneved grips his journal with white knuckles. The renowned German explorer, celebrated across Europe for his scientific expeditions, finds himself an unwitting witness to a scene no amount of academic preparation could have readied him for. Hundreds of Cree and Assiniboine warriors emerged over the horizon, their bodies adorned with war paint and feathered headdresses, weapons at the ready, their weapons. A deadly mix of traditional war clubs, razor-sharp lances, and newly acquired firearms gleam in the early morning light. These aren't mere raiders. This is an army bent on total destruction. Their target lies directly beneath the fort's imposing walls. A Blackfoot camp where women still tend to morning fires and children play between the lodges, blissfully unaware of the approaching storm. The camp's warriors, exhausted from a night of ceremonial dancing, are about to face the fight of their lives. The blood feud between these tribes runs deeper than any European could comprehend. Decades of warfare have written a brutal history across the northern plains, one that Prince Maximilian's careful notes could never fully capture. Survivors' accounts tell of dawn raids that leave entire camps erased from existence, men slaughtered, women and children either killed or forced into slavery. The lucky ones escape with nothing but their lives. The unlucky ones face fates that even hardened frontier veterans hesitate to describe. This endless cycle of violence traces its roots to disputes over hunting grounds, vital territory that means the difference between survival and starvation for these nomadic peoples. Though the specific cause of this rivalry between the remains unknown, the conflict has spread violence across the prairie for years. The conflict's tentacles reach far beyond tribal boundaries, threatening to strangle the very fur trade that brought Europeans to these lands. Fort McKenzie stood as a vital trading post in present-day Montana, strategically positioned 6 miles north of the Marias River. David Mitchell, an American fur company merchant, designed and built the fort specifically to facilitate trade with local tribes. The structure featured 2 blockhouses within a square timber enclosure measuring roughly 50 yards on each side. Mitchell named it after his superior, Kenneth McKenzie, who oversaw the company's extensive operations throughout the upper Missouri region. The fort's design served both practical and diplomatic purposes. Its sturdy timber walls protected valuable trade goods while providing shelter for permanent staff and visiting tribes. The strategically placed blockhouses offered clear views across the surrounding prairie, ensuring security for all who gathered there. Under Mitchell's leadership, the fort quickly established itself as a central hub for tribal trade in the region. To distinguished European visitors had taken up residence at the fort. Prince Maximilian, a German ethnographer and naturalist, renowned for his scientific expeditions, arrived to study the native peoples. His companion Karl Bodmer, a brilliant 24-year-old Swiss-French artist, brought multiple artistic talents, including printmaking, etching, lithography, and zinc engraving. Together, they embarked on an extensive study of Blackfoot life and culture. Bodmer established a makeshift studio within the fort where he created detailed portraits of Blackfoot visitors. His meticulous attention to detail in depicting tribal regalia and customs earned him deep respect among the Blackfoot people. During these portrait sessions, tribal members shared their stories and traditions through interpreters, adding valuable context to his visual documentation. Each portrait session became an opportunity for cultural exchange, with Bodmer capturing not just images but the essence of Blackfoot life. Prince Maximilian's research proved groundbreaking. Through systematic observation and extensive interviews, he became the first ethnographer to document the complex structure of Blackfoot society. He discovered and recorded their 7 distinct warrior societies, organized by age, from the Junior Mosquito Society through the Bee Society, Dog Society, Crow Society, and Kit Fox Society, culminating in the prestigious Bull Society. Each society maintained its own unique customs, ceremonies, and responsibilities within the tribe. His methodical documentation revealed a sophisticated tribal organization previously unknown to outsiders. Maximilian spent considerable time with different Blackfoot bands, documenting how their distinct characteristics and traditions united them as a larger tribal nation. However, he encountered significant barriers when studying their religious practices. Even M.R. Berger, their experienced interpreter, who knew the Blackfoot well, could only confirm their sun worship, while deeper spiritual knowledge remained guarded. While Maximilian and Bodmer focused on their cultural studies, David Mitchell worked diligently to strengthen trading relationships with the Blackfoot. His genuine respect for their customs and commitment to fair trading practices built strong bonds of trust. Mitchell established strict rules about trade conduct and maintained careful neutrality during tribal disputes, making Fort McKenzie a trusted partner for the Blackfoot people. Mitchell's efforts had proven remarkably successful. Over months of trade and interaction, he developed personal connections with many Blackfoot men, women, and children. They became more than trading partners. He knew their names, their stories, their families. The tribe recognized and appreciated his genuine respect for their customs and his fair treatment in all dealings. However, this carefully built peace was about to face its greatest test. One morning, Mitchell found himself in an impossible position inside the fort's timber walls. His role as fort commander demanded neutrality. The American Fur Company's profits depended on maintaining good relations with all tribes. Yet below him, people he had come to know and respect faced annihilation. Mitchell rushed to the fort's roof, joining Maximilian and Bodmer at their observation point. All 3 men watched with mounting dread as masses of Cree and Assiniboine warriors approached. Terrible possibilities loomed. Would the warriors attack the fort itself or target the vulnerable Blackfoot camp? The Blackfoot encampment lay exposed, too far from the fort's protective walls for a quick escape. Tension mounted as morning progressed. The Cree and Assiniboine warriors advanced with deadly purpose, their numbers seeming endless. Mitchell's men checked their weapons, uncertain whether they would defend the fort or aid their Blackfoot allies. Prince Maximilian continued his observations, though his scientific detachment cracked with each passing moment. Bodmer worked frantically, with trembling hands, to sketch the warriors he had painted just days before. Men who had sat patiently in his studio, sharing stories through interpreters, now preparing for what might be their final battle. Within minutes, the warriors' intentions became clear. They headed straight for the Blackfoot camp. This was not a raid on the fort, but another bloody chapter in their ongoing tribal feud. Few white men had witnessed such tribal warfare firsthand. Those stories circulated throughout the northern plains, tales of torture, enslavement, and mass killings that left entire camps destroyed. Fort McKenzie's walls, built for peaceful trade, were about to become front-row seats to a massacre. Inside Fort McKenzie, the inhabitants prepared for a possible secondary attack while finding themselves unable to look away from the impending violence. The situation was far more dire for the Blackfoot camp. Women and children fled toward the fort's walls, while warriors, still exhausted from the previous night's ceremonial drinking and dancing, rushed to organize a defense. Several riders galloped at full speed toward the main Blackfoot camp, located 8 to 10 miles up the Marias River. Desperate to summon reinforcements, the battle erupted with shocking violence. Cree and Assiniboine warriors stormed through the camp, wielding both traditional weapons and firearms. Those Blackfoot women and children who couldn't reach the fort in time met brutal ends inside their own lodges, cut down by lances and war clubs. Despite their fatigue, the Blackfoot warriors mounted a fierce resistance. Gunshots cracked across the prairie as both sides opened fire. War cries and screams of the wounded filled the air as the battle descended into chaos. The scene unfolding before the fort revealed the full evolution of tribal warfare. The Cree and Assiniboine warriors, numbering in the hundreds, attacked in coordinated groups. Some charged on horseback while others advanced on foot. Showing practiced battlefield tactics, the Blackfoot defenders turned their lodges into makeshift barricades, returning fire from these positions while trying to protect the women and children still trapped within the camp. Those who couldn't escape moved desperately between lodges, seeking any available cover from the onslaught. The Blackfoot warriors fought with remarkable determination, despite being outnumbered and caught off guard. Some mounted desperate rear guard actions, sacrificing themselves to buy time for others to escape. Both sides demonstrated the changing nature of tribal combat, skillfully combining traditional weapons with traded firearms. From their vantage point, Mitchell, Maximilian, and Bodmer witnessed the full scope of the battle. The Blackfoot warriors, though disadvantaged, fought with fierce determination to protect their people. The brutal efficiency of the Cree and Assiniboine attack suggested this raid had been carefully planned, perhaps watching the camp for days to strike when the Blackfoot were most vulnerable, after their night of ceremonies. The desperate defense of the Blackfoot camp finally gained crucial support as reinforcements arrived from their main camp. Prince Maximilian captured this pivotal moment in his journal with vivid detail. The reinforcements came galloping in groups from 3 to 20 together, their horses covered with foam from exhaustion. The warriors wore their finest battle regalia, feathered headdresses streaming behind them, upper bodies partially bare, carrying shields decorated with feathers and colored cloth. They arrived fully armed with bows, quivers, guns, and their sacred medicine bundles. The arrival of these fresh warriors dramatically changed the battle's momentum. The Cree and Assiniboine forces, focused on their attack, suddenly found themselves caught between two groups of Blackfoot warriors. The reinforcements, enraged at seeing their people under attack, charged into battle with devastating effect. They used their lances with deadly precision, pursuing enemy warriors across the battlefield with the same skill they employed in buffalo hunts. At Fort McKenzie, Mitchell could no longer stand watching the slaughter of Blackfoot women and children, people he had come to know personally through months of trade and friendship. He gathered a group of trappers and hunters from the fort. Armed with extra ammunition and their rifles, they rushed out through the fort's gates and joined the battle several hundred yards away. Mitchell and his men targeted any Cree and Assiniboine warriors they could find, adding their firepower to the Blackfoot counterattack. The combined assault proved overwhelming. Caught between the defending Blackfoot, the fresh reinforcements, and Mitchell's armed traders, the surviving Cree and Assiniboine warriors fled toward the horizon. Their raid turned into a costly failure. In the battle's aftermath, powerful emotions swept through the camp. First came relief, as survivors reunited with their loved ones who had taken shelter in the fort. But this quickly turned to profound grief as families discovered their dead. The camp, peaceful just hours before now, echoed with wails of mourning as people gathered around the bodies of their fallen relatives. The grief soon transformed into vengeful rage. Following Plains warfare customs, the Blackfoot turned their attention to the dead Cree and Assiniboine warriors scattered throughout their camp. They mutilated the bodies according to traditional ritual practices, a final act of retribution against those who had attacked their families. Even Mitchell and the other Europeans, hardened by years on the frontier, were struck by the intensity of this ceremonial vengeance. Maximilian documented the raw violence of the aftermath. Blackfoot warriors, still burning with rage, fired their guns repeatedly into the dead bodies of Cree and Assiniboine fighters. Women who had lost children in the attack beat the corpses with clubs, while others hurled stones at them. The young ones joined their mothers,